I'm Andrew Graham-Dixon, and I'm an art historian. Is it a town or is it a piece of theatre?
I'm Giorgio Locatelli, and I'm a cook.
So the Sultana is really tiny, little restive little one, like a little Sicilian, huh?
We both share a passion.
This is real Baroque, yeah.
This is decadent. A love.
Whoa! An obsession.
I've never seen anything like that.
Her name? Sicilia, the Mediterranean island of Sicily.
We've both been her ardent suitors for years. I love how layers of history have created a unique blend of art and architecture here. It's like winning the World Cup in archaeological
That's
science.
exactly.
And I adore her incredible flavor and no-nonsense approach to food.
Here you are, 10 square meter, you could find all these ingredients. Here they are in front of you.
But it's only recently we discovered that we share the same intense passion for the island.
So we decide to team up and travel here together.
This really is the Naked Chef.
He is the real one. He's the real naked chef.
In sharing our knowledge and our love for the island with each other, we hope to uncover even more of the secrets and treasures.
The sadness.
This was a hole in a nation. This was the hole in the heart of a nation.
And the pleasures of our beloved Sicily. As a piece of sincere painting, it's fantastic.
From simple, delicious food packed with incredible flavor.
There you are. Perfection.
To the truly jaw-dropping art and culture, a mirror to the exuberance and extraordinary history of its people. We're travelling to one of the most fascinating places on the whole island. Over 500,000 years old, but still bubbling with life. The volcano, Mount Etna. For me, it's where everything begins, inspiring countless ancient myths and legends about the island. The key to Sicily's future lies in its ancient past. So this is why we're going to explore its origins. We're winding our way up Etna on an old narrow-gauge railway.
It's surprisingly luscious and beautiful, isn't it? Look at that. You have grapes, you have like massive fig trees, olive grove, you have all the fruits growing out there, and all this ginestra.
I'm struck by this extraordinary contrast on this side and up there.
Right.
You know, there's that sort of Etna. And then over here, it's like the Garden of Eden. It's pure.
Well,
it's fertility, isn't it? It's like you've got the anger of the gods, and then you've got the bounty of the gods.
Of the bounty, yeah? That's exactly it.
Before we explore the foreboding upper slopes of the volcano, we stop off at one of the vineyards which flourish at the foothills. Wine has been produced in this part of Sicily since the first great colonizer of the island, the Greeks, arrived in the 8th century BC. Etna wine, like Sicily, has experienced mixed fortune. Years of glory followed by a slow, painful downturn. But thanks to producers like Ciro Biondi, this wine is finally getting a second chance.
I'm very struck by the sheer sort of verticality of the slope. I mean, it would seem to me kind of perverse to be growing grapes on such a steep slope. Why don't you grow on a flat field?
Because if you want to produce a quality wine, you have to give sun to the vines. Think of a solar panel. The solar panel are very, it's not straight. Right. So if one vine not gives the shades to the other one, it's better.
Right. And what about the water? How do you water them?
That's
do you have
interesting.
water?
We not irrigate the vines because irrigation means cheat. If it's a year where it's no rain, you will taste in the wine. But if you give the water, you cheat.
Right.
You will have the same kind of wine every year.
Right.
The wine should be the result of a year of work and of the climate, and which should be always different.
So, for example, if you have a dry year...
Maybe it will be more flavor, more robust wine because the heat have produced more alcohol rather than elegance that normally we got here.
One thing that I noticed is so much different. Then you have thousands of butterfly, which, you know, when you go to Piedmont or something like that, there's no insect whatsoever.
Because we don't use any chemical, because we are so lucky not to need this chemical spray in the vineyard.
So you can make a wine that's sort of almost organic, even without having an organic necessarily philosophy.
I don't want to say on the label that I'm organic, because I want to sell the wine because it's good.
What's Giorgio doing?
Just thinking about, you know, you say it doesn't spray the leaves, so just thinking like, you know, the Greeks used to cook with that, so maybe we should cook something with that. No?
Yeah, why not?
Before we sit down to taste the wine, I prepared the perfect snack. Ciccio's very own vine leaves, dipped and fried in a batter of flour, eggs and beer. I hope they enjoy them.
There's a lot of activity going on in the back.
There you are.
Hey!
Taste these.
Wow. Be boiling hot.
A little bit.
Giorgio Locatelli had to come all the way to let me taste my own leaves, which I've never done in my life.
You've never tasted your own vine leaves?
Never.
What do you think?
I think I like it.
This white wine named Utis is made from the Caricanti grapes grown here.
So we start with this 2010 white.
It's delicious and completely unique.
I can't think of another white wine to compare it with. It doesn't taste, I mean, you know, often you can taste a wine and think, oh, it's a bit like a Pinot Grigio, or it's a bit like a, you know, a bit like a white Burgundy, but...
Yeah.
Is this grape pretty much unique to here?
To here, when you say here, it's Etna, it's not Sicily, because you can imagine Etna is like an island on the island. So what you found on Etna is completely different to what you can find on the rest of Sicily. So because the altitude, the soil, all these things put it together, the grapes variety.
Well, it smells of honey to me. It's got this sort of almost like a taste of saltiness, and you've got the sea over there. So
yeah, but I think the saltiness from the soil, the mineral, from lava soil.
But do you agree that? I mean,
yeah, of course.
Well, it tastes to me more than all these adjectives that we can put in it. It tastes like Ciccio looking for himself here. This is your wine. It's your collaboration with this land and this soil and this weather and this grapes.
It's a teamwork. I mean, the soil, people, grapes.
And it works like an
weather,
harmony.
Yeah, it should be harmony. I mean, this is something, when you work with nature, you can't try to win the nature, you have to go with the flow.
This earthy connection with nature is what made Sicily special, and is what the new breed of Sicilian like Ciccio is striving for, to once again be in touch with their motherland.
The next morning we set out to face the mountain. Sicily is full of paradoxes, but Etna captures one of the most extreme. The lushness of the foothills versus the convulsive force of the volcano. Locals think of the mountain as female, a great beauty with a seductive, dark side. We meet our guide Carmelo, a volcanologist, and take a cable car up the rocky, crater-scarred face of the volcano.
So, Carmelo, how many times have you been up here?
Oh, hundreds.
You spend your life coming up here?
Yes, basically, yes.
Right.
Etna is my life in every respect.
You're in love with it?
More than in love, actually, because it's just a little bit of myself. Actually, a big bit of myself. I study Etna, I come here in winter with skis for climbing during the summer. I sometimes take people, I take my students. I go here all time possible. So I've seen Etna in all seasons. It changes because every time there is an eruption, you see a new cone, a new lava flow. The landscape changes a little bit, and it's really alive.
I've always been curious to see what the top of the volcano looked like. No photo prepares you for it. The sight that greeted us when we reached the summit was truly awe-inspiring.
That's just incredible. Do you know what that reminds me of, Giorgio? Do you remember when you were a kid looking at the moon buggy, shots from the moon buggy?
That's exactly.
Sort of Neil Armstrong should be over there, jumping up and down.
One of the most fascinating things about Etna is how this ancient mountain is recreated with every explosion, sometimes with dramatic otherworldly results.
This cone you see on the left formed during 2 weeks of eruption in 2001. Only 2 weeks accumulated enough material to rise the elevation of this cone of almost 80 meters. This is the first channel on Earth which has been carved directly by a lava flow. We have situations like this only in other planets.
So every time then there is a different eruption, we cannot forecast where is it going to come from. A cone could form anytime, anywhere.
Can't form anytime, anywhere. This happens since the beginning of the formation of Etna, which is about 500,000 years ago.
We trek up the steaming volcano for another couple of 100 meters, but it's just not safe to climb any further. Strange and mysterious. It's easy to see why it inspired the ancient Greeks to concoct so many myths and legends about it.
You feel like you've entered the world of the gods somehow. You've entered some other place, no?
Then the hell, like
Hades. Well, they thought it was the underworld. It is. Or like it's like some vision of this is what the world would look like if the atomic bombs all went off. It's post-apocalyptic.
Yeah, except for the fog.
The fog makes it even more eerie.
Yeah, you're right. I think you're right.
I had never quite realized the extent to which Greek mythology actually reflects, very precisely some of the elements of this unique exploding mountain. Polyphemus, the Cyclops that Odysseus meets on Etna, he's got this single round eye. Maybe that's the idea of a crater, one of these hundreds of craters.
Yeah, absolutely right. And after all, the myths are born. It's exactly for explaining reality. And when reality is a little bit too complex to explain, then they made up something, a myth, right?
And is there a reason why they don't let us go right to the top?
Yeah, in this period, the activity at the main crater is very sudden, and there could be explosions.
So in other words, we might die.
Calm
Chiaro, Giorgio.
Yeah, there are sudden and very violent explosions that can last for 3-4 years, emitting a big volume of rocks like this. Then they stop for 1.5 months or only 10 days, who knows? Right. And then again.
Next time then there is an eruption, I want to come and have a look at it.
You should.
Etna is ancient, but it's also alive, just like Sicily. A living organism full of turmoil and unpredictability. A fiery phoenix rising out of years of destruction. Travelling through Sicily today, you really do feel as if the island is experiencing a renaissance. Having spent most of the modern era escaping poverty and the suffocating grip of the mafia, Sicilians are now rediscovering the true value of what's been left by the island's ancient colonizers. Places like the Valley of Temples in Agrigento. In the 5th century BC, Akragas, as it was called, was one of the richest of all the cities in the Greek Empire. And today, these breathtaking Doric temples, the finest outside Greece, attract visitors from all over the world.
And there are jewels of the ancient world all over this island. We have headed to the fishing town of Mazara del Vallo to find one of the most precious. It's a place I visit every year with my family. This time, I'm turning the table on Andrew and introducing him to a great work of art. In 1998, a magnificent ancient Greek statue was fished out of the sea here. But before I take Andrew to see it, we catch up with the local fisherman, Capitan Ciccio, who caught the bronze statue in his nets.
Come è uscita?
È uscita, guarda, è uscita particolarmente bella perché poteva uscire dai piedi, poteva uscire dai capovolto, invece è uscita dall'acqua. La prima cosa che abbiamo visto è il viso proprio con il viso rivolto verso l'alto.
No.
Cioè, è stato impressionante.
It came out with the face.
Come un naufrago trovato nella rete che voleva essere salvato.
Came out like a shipwrecked person.
Just come up, and the face come out the water first, just like that.
Were there barnacles on it, fish on it?
Yeah.
Erano i pesci,
Sì,
gamberi.
gamberetti, riuscivano gamberetti dalle orecchie, dalla bocca, era piena di gamberetti, granchietti piccoli.
Prawns and little crabs coming out of its ears.
Yeah.
I gamberetti e i granchietti gli faceva da casa, diciamo.
Yeah, it was the house. They were housed inside it.
Capitan Ciccio could have sold his special catch to a private dealer, but instead he returned it to the state. He wanted it to be shared and looked after by ordinary Sicilians as a precious piece of their heritage. And he had his wish. Today there is an entire museum dedicated to it. I've seen the statue many times, and I'm really excited to see what Andrew makes of it.
Every time it's just such a revelation.
So it's been under the sea for 2,500 years.
Yes. And it looks like he wants to swim out, doesn't he?
He does. He looks like a diver swimming to the surface. Well, I can see why they built a whole museum around the single object.
So many things about this beautiful statue remain a mystery, but it's believed he's a mythological creature, a satyr, part man, part beast.
The archaeologists, they always struggle. They don't really know what it is. I think what we can say is that the satyr represents uncontrol, inspiration. One of those arms that we don't have anymore would probably have been holding a cup of wine. And I think the figure is meant to be in the throes of this ecstasy.
And spin around.
He's spinning around the god Dionysus, the god of wine, and what he represents is sort of man's connection to nature, to the natural world. The hole in the back here maybe would have had a ponytail to signify that the satyr is part animal, part human. And you see he's got these funny ears, yes, not like human ears.
Pointed.
I think there's something about works of art that are mysterious. I mean, there's people who believe, I quite like this idea, that that hole in the back was actually where the statue would be attached to the front of a boat.
All right.
So this would actually be this ecstatic figure. The boat would be sailing, and this would have been a figurehead.
In the front.
I think it's just a beautiful mystery. Was he created for a temple? Was he created to mark a Greek victory? Was he created as a single work of art for sale on the open market, or was he the figurehead of a ship? In the end, we're left with the enigma.
The sea around Sicily are full of treasure. I got another surprise up my sleeve for Andrew. It's at the docks, a few minutes walk away. The fishing port of Mazzara del Vallo is the most important, not only in Sicily, but all of Italy. And my friend Vincenzo is a skipper of a fishing trawler that hunts the most precious fish, the most sought-after prawns in the world, the gamberi rossi, red prawns.
Hi Vincenzo!
Ciao!
Come stai?
Bene!
Possiamo salire?
Prego!
Andiamo. Questo è Andrew.
Ciao!
Grazie.
Ciao!
Before we get a look at the prawns, he gives us a tour of the boat.
Prego, accomodate.
Oh, e Vincenzo,
Dimmi.
quando sei fuori a pescare, quanto tempo stai fuori?
2 o 3 settimane.
They stay out
3 weeks.
4 weeks.
2 o 3 settimane.
So these are the living quarters,
This
or
is
the
called
eating quarters.
the cambusa.
Questo qui ci dà il direttore di macchina. Prego, accomodate.
What's this? Questa è una camera da letto?
Questa è una camera da letto.
This is his bedroom for 3 weeks. There's not always a Madonna.
C'è una Madonna lì.
La Madonna dello Scoglio. La
The
chiamiamo.
Madonna of the Rocks.
Even the boat has a patron saint.
That's right.
E dove è la cucina? C'è una
La cucina,
La
allora,
cucina?
la cucina sta qua. Prego,
Ok,
accomodate.
andiamo a vedere la cucina.
Vieni.
So what's this kind of funny contraption on the cooker?
Well, this is
Questo serve per
yeah,
pendere.
this is useful for when the sea is rough. So you just unscrew that, move it up, close the pan in, so you're not going to end up with all the pasta on the floor. E cosa mangiate?
Do you eat the prawns?
Come normalmente la carne, ma i pesci non mancano, i gamberi non mancano.
Naturally, they like to eat the steak since they've been dealing with fish all day. They like
So
to-
they
Non
don't.
mangiamo tutti i giorni pesce,
No,
sempre
they
chiaro.
don't
C'è
eat
la
fish.
carne e c'è il pesce.
Very little.
But we want to see the prawns. Possiamo vedere the fish?
Sì, prego, accomodate.
He understood. What kind of Italian am I speaking to?
Andiamo a vedere il fish.
Possiamo vedere the fish. What is that?
The gamberi rossi are a real delicacy. Meant to be eaten raw, they're frozen on board as soon as they are cold.
Ah, they really are red, aren't they?
They are absolutely beautiful. This animal lives at 600, 800 meters underneath the sea. And because the current is so strong, he really needs to swim. They kind of suffer. They have to work hard to be alive, you know? So
But how
it's
does the
cool.
current affect the taste of the prawn? I mean,
Because the prawns has to work against the current. He has to suffer.
So this is. Why is there always suffering involved in Sicilian food? What is that all about? Even the prawns have to suffer. So what am I looking for?
What you're looking for is just, you know, is this absolutely sweetness that will come out of the prawns. I mean, now look at that. It's so beautiful. And
That is a monster. And can you eat it raw?
no, you have to eat it raw.
You have to eat it raw.
That's what it is.
Awesome. Va
Yeah.
bene.
Va bene, va bene.
So what am I?
Eat maybe the bottom, then it's
Okay.
still. The prawns is sweet. The sweetness is incredible.
It's like denser.
Yeah,
On a
it's
farmed
got-
prawn, it's a little bit sort of. You bite. There's no bite to it.
Yeah, the white prawns doesn't have to have. It's almost like more fat. The animal living at such a deepness really needs to have a lot of fat.
Questo è buonissimo.
If you eat that from the
You
top,
eat that?
that's what you eat. That's what it's got
Questo?
even more
Sì.
flavor.
Aha.
His head.
That's like the top of the brain.
Yeah.
I can't believe I'm sucking a prawn's brains up. I've been told that's the best bit. It's an acquired. I think I prefer the meat.
Yeah, preferisce la coda, ha detto.
My buono.
And you know what is amazing as well? Then these have been washed on seawater and then they placed in the box perfectly like that, obviously weighted and put away. So wherever you are in the world and you receive one of these frozen, when you defrost it, you have a piece of the Mediterranean in the front of you. Literally, the water that will be left there is water of the Mediterranean, and I think this is an exceptional way to to serve something like that. So with simplicity.
You've got to be nice to Vincenzo so that he keeps supplying you, right?
If Vincenzo stops fishing, I'm in trouble.
Grazie Vincenzo.
Grazie Vincenzo.
Buona fortuna al mare.
Grazie.
This journey really does feel like a treasure hunt. We're heading to the heart of the island, home to a unique statue of Demeter, the Greek goddess of fertility. And although she's a local, she's only recently returned home to the town of Aidone. This prized work of art had been looted from the ancient site of Morgantina nearby in the 70s and eventually sold to the Getty Museum in California.
But when the Getty realized that she'd been stolen, they returned the statue to the rightful home. Davide, one of the curators of the town's archaeological museum, proudly introduced us to this long-lost treasure.
Che bella. Wow.
Bellissima.
Very impressive.
Yes.
It's such a rare thing for a statue to come back. This idea of restitution, it's so unusual. And for the statue to have come back all the way from California to this little town, that's almost like a David and Goliath story.
Yeah, you're right. When we found out that the trip of this statue was illegal, we tried to make this big step of the restitution. And we won. It's something very special, you're right.
It must be a great feeling for after thousands of years of feeling ripped off completely. Suddenly, they got one over, not only got one over the Americans, which is really big for them, you know?
What could be better than that? It's like winning the World Cup in archaeological terms.
Exactly.
This statue is almost as old as the sculptures on the Parthenon in Greece. It's truly exceptional.
How did they definitely establish it to the point that the Getty were prepared to surrender it?
Because of the proof of the material. The limestone was the same of the other statues here. So it was a DNA evidence.
So it is the archaeological equivalent of DNA evidence. You mean say that limestone has been geologically established as definitely, boom, X marks the spot?
Exactly.
And where do you think she stood?
In the center of the Agora. So it's the main square of Morgantina, because it was representative for all the city.
There's a mixture of the god, but also the human. Yes. It's very human.
Exactly. It's human because of the body, and she's goddess because of the head.
Face, yeah. What I think is amazing about the sculpture is the sense of movement. I mean, this is that time in Greek sculpture where suddenly you've got this tremendous sense of movement and energy. And in fact, from here, Giorgio, come here. Because I think only from here, and you stand like at this angle, can you see how the sculptor has created, with the flow of the drapery backwards, with these sort of wave-like forms, there's a sense of movement.
It shows her body kind of thing, advancing.
Exactly, and not just she's advancing, think where she's advancing to. She's Demeter looking for her daughter Persephone in the underworld, and she's got this solemn expression in her face, maybe even a bit of sadness.
Yeah, it does. It really gives you the sense of movement for sure, or like of search almost. Like he has this like kind of searching sort of pose, isn't it?
It's exactly right. So she's searching for her daughter to bring back spring, to bring back growth. So much in Sicily is about things growing, about fertility, about being.
And the Greeks saw this place as a plentiful place, isn't it? Land was so rich. A tutta la Sicilia.
Patron goddess of Sicily. It's been such a pleasure, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dad.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great experience.
Thank you for coming.
No, we're delighted.
And the food of ancient Sicily is just as refined as the art. Back at our guest house, I treat Andrew to a recipe over 2,300 years old. It comes from a food guide called The Life of Luxury, written by a brilliant Greek Sicilian named Archestratus.
If people think about Italian cookery, they always think about Apicius as being actually the main writer. Apicius was not the main writer. It portrayed very much the cooking of Rome. While, you know, Archestratus was just a couple of hundreds years before that. And to me, it really talks about what I'm talking about when we're talking about food, which is the quality of the raw ingredients, the knowledge.
I tend to think of classical food, ancient food, as being quite heavily sauced and spiced, perhaps because they didn't have refrigeration and, you know, they were perhaps wanting to cover up certain things. But
this guy is a purist. He's the first guy who says, keep the meat rare. You know, we're talking about, you know, 2,000 years ago, you know, and these guys had this kind of knowledge. He had a very refined palate. He talks about using a piece of a she tuna, a female tuna, and the underbelly, so kind of nice and fatty. If you can think about these guys as somebody modern, that would have been like kind of a Michelin guide. But instead of being interested in actually restaurant, he was interested in what town did what, fish what, grow what type of bread.
He's almost like a philosopher of food.
Yeah, I think he had a very heightened capacity of interpreting flavors. And, you know, the recipe is so simple. You can't, it's like, you know, you don't mess about at all. It's just a piece of tuna, a little bit of olive oil, and a touch of oregano, which would have grown completely like wild all over the island.
What leaf are you using?
Using fig leaves. Fig leaves will release some flavor. Also, some of the essential oil will help to flavor it, and it will keep it really moist. Look at the time for me, yeah?
Sure, yeah, I made a note. How long does it take?
6 minutes I will give you, yeah. We like it rare, don't we? We don't want it extra cooked. Okay, now it's roasting gently there. And there you are. Perfection. That's your tuna wrap. I guess that maybe this would have been cooked in the street. So you walk away with your fig leaves in your hand.
Early Greek Sicilian takeaway food.
Yeah.
Grazie. So it's a nice, straightforward way of cooking, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It's nice and rare.
This is pure food.
So eat it like an ancient Greek, with the hand. Mmm. It's particularly nice in the middle.
Yeah.
No, it's really soft, but it's taken the flavour of the fire.
Yeah.
For me, food like this puts you in touch with the past just as vividly as any work of art. It's history you can eat.
While the Greeks saw Sicily as an ethereal place, full of magic and mystery, the island's next great colonizers made Sicily their heaven on earth. The Romans took over in the 3rd century BC, and there's a place nearby that shows just how sumptuous and lavish their world was. This is Villa Romana del Casale. Built in the 4th century, it boasts the largest collection of Roman mosaic floors anywhere in the world.
It's like walking into a painting, isn't it?
The mosaics in here positively seethe with vivid detail, intricately designed, brilliantly executed. But there's one room in particular I want Giorgio to see.
Now this is completely unique. There is nothing like this from the ancient world that survives anywhere else except here. And if it hadn't been for the discovery of these mosaics, everybody would still think that the bikini was invented in the 20th century. Because here we are, we've got ancient Roman girls wearing bikinis.
You can see a woman running around on Bondi Beach now with her weight in the hands and trying to...
I know, it's amazing, isn't it? In Latin literature, they record this thing that aristocrats would do, is that they would sponsor female gymnasts to engage in team sport. And they think that's what this shows, so that these girls have all been competing in different sports. And she's been given the victory palm.
Look at this one, all different texture of colors of the skin on her belly. It's incredible.
It's a tour de force. Modelling of human anatomy in mosaic is about as hard as it gets. The archaeologists get very annoyed because the people who promote tourism here call them the bikini girls, and they say, no, 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 they're not bikini girls, they're gymnasts.
Nobody's sure who lived here, but they think it might have been the summer retreat of a Roman emperor. And there are some mosaic images here that certainly feel like a proclamation of Roman power on Sicilian soil. A statement they really were here to stay.
I guess in part it was the Romans' way of showing anybody who came here that they had power over all the way from Asia to Africa. They could take whatever they wanted. These wild beasts, in a way, symbolised the reach of their empire.
The detail of everything is just incredible, how they managed to do something like that on a large scale like that.
In some ways, very almost like naive art, because all the figures have got these, you've seen these sort of strange shapes, which you think, well, what is it? It's actually a diagrammatic version of a shadow.
Right.
So these people, they look like they've got things attached to their feet. They're actually those meant to be their shadows. So I think this is one of the most spectacular rooms.
Although the mosaics were first unearthed in the 19th century, it was 100 years before a complete restoration started, in 1991. Peter and Eleanor are two of the army of conservators, painstakingly restoring the mosaics to their original splendour. And they've allowed us to take a sneak peek at the work still in progress.
So, Eleanor, when you have the information, quando lei ha l'informazione, you can complete the shape, is that right?
I bianchi, il colore un pochettino si abbassa e poi adesso non si vede, ma quando si asciuga fra qualche minuto vedete che quelli sono i bianchi che molto assomigliano a questi di qua.
So
e aiuta molto ad uscire ancora.
So she's matching the whites.
The white at the moment, and then she'll just kind of like reread it after. It's a painstaking job, isn't it?
Dunque, dove io ho qualche dubbio, per esempio dentro questo spazio, io ho qualche dubbio, io subito cerco tramite lo stesso colore di questi tesserini, però di metterli senza ordine.
So if she's in any way doubtful, what she'll do is she'll create a little kind of abstract jumble of forms that are in the right set of colours, so that when you visit and look down, you can see, you know, your eye is not distracted by a great big blank.
Posso provare io a farne una?
Certo.
I'm gonna have to try to make one. I'm gonna contribute to this.
Un po' di neutro per fare...
Un po' di neutro.
Un po' di neutro con rosa.
Questo?
Sì, con tutte e due.
I'm gonna do this one. Questa qui faccio.
Meglio dentro.
It feels really nice to be part of these things, of this process. Thank you.
Questo colore va bene? This colour?
Bene.
It's okay. It's nice just to get a feel of it. How many tesserae are there here? 120 million?
Millions. We are down one each.
It's not a big contribution, but it's something.
Yeah.
For me, the villa's a kind of emblem of what's happened to Sicily. A jewel of the ancient world, hidden for years, but now being given a new lease of life.
And this renaissance extends to the agriculture of Sicily. The food produced here, like the art, is experiencing a revival of fortune. Sicily's colonizers exported the crops grown here for centuries. But with the rise of the mafia, it became more difficult to trade successfully with other countries. Now, that's changing, and one of the greatest success stories is the most Mediterranean of fruits, the tomato. We have come to Parthenon in the southeast of the island, where today the region cherry tomato are its most prized export. Partheno's seaside location, with its mineral-rich soil and sunny climate, make it perfect for cultivating tomatoes. Salvatore is one of the growers managing to capture the unique taste of this territory in the produce.
Salvatore, che è il segreto? What's the secret di un pomodoro perfetto?
È il lavoro intanto delle persone che si impegnano. Poi c'è il terreno, che deve essere quello che è questo qua. Che una volta c'era un vulcano in cui c'è la forza del vulcano, della lava. Ecco, questa pietra già...
You've even got a piece of volcanic lava in there.
Poi abbiamo un tipo di acqua che non è dolce.
Non è
type of water that's not too sweet, not too soft.
No, it's kind of salty.
C'è
una salinità superiore.
C'è una salinità superiore che conferisce un sapore particolare.
Like the salt water gives a certain taste.
A certain taste.
It's always good to have salt with tomatoes anyway, isn't it?
And what really is amazing, it is like with the grapes, you know, to keep the tree under stress, that really allowed you to have a superior quality tomato.
So you don't want a tree that yields millions of tomatoes. Non vogliamo milioni di pomodori, vogliamo i
pomodori buoni.
Pomodori buoni.
Questa serra è una casa in cui proteggiamo queste piante dagli insetti.
This greenhouse is not a greenhouse. This is like a house where you protect your family. And here is your house where you protect your tomato. So that allowed you to have something that hasn't got any pesticides and nothing gets sprayed.
So the function of the greenhouse is not primarily to concentrate or focus the heat, it's actually just to protect.
If anything, to protect.
What would be the opposite end of this beautiful tomato? Would it be like some kind of Dutch tunnel full of water?
Aiming for sides instead than flavor.
So you end up with lots of tomatoes that kind of taste of water.
They look all the same, they're perfectly looking on the look, but they don't have any flavor left to them.
So each one of these is kind of, it's concentrated the flavour of that volcanic soil, so you're ending up with a kind of little Sicilian taste bomb.
You're eating a piece of Sicily then. You literally are having a piece of Sicily.
It tastes good.
These produce are, I feel that somebody in London then can have access to tomato like that. He can feel like he's spending an afternoon in Sicily when he's having lunch.
So if you make pasta al pomodoro fresca with his tomatoes, that's a collaboration. That's not just a Giorgio dish. That's a Giorgio.
75% is his job, and only 25 mine. And I'm taking all the credit as well.
There have always been people like Salvatore here in Sicily, ordinary workers making an honest living off the land, as those in charge of the island play out their own agendas. To many foreigners, Sicily was simply the home of mafia villains, so much so that the real world of ordinary Sicilians was obscured for years. But someone has been documenting this hidden Sicily. We've come to the town of Ragusa to meet a photographer who's been taking pictures of Sicily for over 50 years. Giuseppe Leone's pictures have won him many fans, including the fashion designers Dolce & Gabbana, who were inspired by his sensual pictures of Sicilian women. But what I find compelling about Giuseppe's pictures is how the changes in Sicilian life are captured in subtle ways.
Solo che qui lo sviluppo è stato più veloce. E al posto di queste cose ormai non ci sono né le scale, ma ci sono strade piene di macchine. C'è una grande nostalgia per un periodo, per un mondo che era diverso, completamente diverso.
He's nostalgic about this world.
È come se fossero passati non 40 anni, ma 200 anni.
And the boat is so small. And you know, the risk that he's taking to go out fishing is enormous. Again, it's like there's no radar, there's no nothing. It's just going out, getting the food and just bringing it back. And it's just so real.
Pensate, in una strada lunga, è un paese questo di 5.000 abitanti, con una strada lunghissima pari a 2 chilometri, 3 chilometri. E la gente si siede nel centro della strada, così, nella maniera più aperta. Questa è una fotografia degli anni '80.
this idea of living your life in the street, that the street is almost a public form of theatre.
Quest'idea di ancora vivere in strada, portarsi la sedia in strada e sedersi per strada.
È una cosa straordinaria, che era legata anche a un mondo di abitudini, di tradizione, molto legata al mondo arabo.
It's almost like that's their bedroom, this is their living room. Andrew, I love this picture because it reminds me so much when I was little. And the people in the village would take all part of the wedding. Obviously, they all went to the celebration.
So everyone in the village was...
Everybody would be out. Everybody would sit and wait for the sposa, the bride to come. Especially if the bride was from the village, everybody would be there watching it.
I love this cast of characters. I mean, I really love the way he's used chiaroscuro. This way that the light has caught the bride and she looks so happy, and all the older generation are watching. He looks like maybe he's remembering the day he got married. Look at her, what a face!
Ecco le facce, a volte le facce sono così di una espressività.
Ma io gioco molto sulla teatralità del volto. Questa fotografia di feste, guardate i volti come sono, c'è un assemblaggio che è veramente straordinario di emozioni. Nella festa è diciamo l'occasione per uscire fuori dal suo isolamento, è l'esplosione dell'es collettivo per ritrovarsi in un contesto aperto. Allora voglio farvi vedere un lavoro straordinario. Faccio vedere alcune cose.
He wants to show us an
Something extraordinary.
Okay.
No way! Look at that! It's unbelievable.
These are the old gargoyles.
Yes. Oh no, look. I love these pictures. They're so beautiful, full of humanity and fun.
I think the Sicilian Giuseppe's pictures is the best of the island. Proud, sincere, with a strong sense of identity. And I believe time won't change that. Sicily's had so many foreign influences over the years, but it's never compromised its true essence.
That's why I think Sicilians can now afford to start taking more chances. I know of a rising star, a chef in a nearby town of Modica, who is taking the best of Sicily food tradition and putting a modern twist on them. 15 years ago, a Ciccio Carparo restaurant, La Gazzaladra, would have struggled to attract visitors. But today, it's got a Michelin star, and diners are queuing up to sample his inventive take on Sicilian food.
Buongiorno!
Buongiorno! Ben arrivati!
Hello. Questo è il mio amico Andrew.
We arrived just before lunch, and Ciccio offers to make us one of his most original recipes, a tuna fish burger with oyster tonic.
Vediamo un pezzo di pancia di tonno.
E Ciccio, che è l'ispirazione per quello scherzo?
E diciamo tutto parte anche le varie abitudini da piccoli, no? Quindi ci portiamo avanti queste abitudini da bambini.
E che cos'erano queste cose che amavi quando eri piccolino?
Sì, beh, il panino, cioè il panino con la mortadella, il panino con la Nutella.
Food, street food again for Sicilian is important.
Right.
This dish may be inspired by Sicilian street food. Just a simple panino, like they've been making here for centuries. But the Ciccio version has an ingenious modern twist.
I assume this is the burger.
No, in realtà sembra un panino, ma non è pane, ma è pesce.
Okay, it's turning around. The bread of the panino, of the burger, is fish.
So basically he's creating something that's going to fool my brain into thinking it's like a burger bun.
That's exactly. We have this absolutely fish kick that will be incredible. The famous sesame seeds that you found in every bread.
Adesso li mettiamo in cottura a vapore. Dammi il timer un attimo. Piatto.
Ok.
Poi dopo delle fettine di filetto di tonno.
It takes the part from right to the tail, so hard. And so when you eat, when you're gonna eat it, you're gonna have a little bit of bite into that.
It's beautiful tuna, isn't it?
It only took a few minutes to steam Accursio's burger bun, but it still didn't look like bread to me.
Ah, now I get it.
E voilà, il nostro panino di tonno.
It's like a little joke on a Big Mac, right? It's like a mini Mac.
Un po' di maionese di mare, con il riccio di mare, interiora dei pesci e una parte anche di olio, colatura di alici.
And there was one final stage to the dish.
Sì, diciamo che adesso a fianco al panino prepariamo anche un cocktail, una bevanda.
You want me to drink an oyster?
That's right.
Questi di qua sono dei cubetti ghiacciati di succo di bergamotto. Prendere il panino
così
con le mani. So. Tuffati a mare.
Man!
Is he a good joke?
It's a very good joke.
All in one.
All in one.
Yeah.
No, do it.
Do it.
Maybe
Okay.
two. And it's like the waves hitting the rocks.
It is. The waves hit the rocks. Ah. Accursio. Grazie.
Grazie per il giro in barca.
Thank you for the boat trip. Andiamo, Giorgio.
Grazie.
Grazie, ragazzi.
Grazie a voi. Grazie.
Accurcio managed to combine the old and the new so easily. He is the epitome of the new Sicilian, someone generating fresh ideas, but still keeping faith in their roots.
On our trip, we've seen many positive stories like Accurcio's, scattered all across the island. I think Sicily's reaching a turning point, and the islanders are finally understanding and appreciating the richness of their own heritage. I wonder what they can do to keep this new energy alive.
For the final stop on the trip, we have returned to the capital, Palermo, where I think we may find the answer. We are visiting a prince at his Grand Palazzo in the city center.
It's kind of unassuming doorway, isn't it?
It is. Hello. Buongiorno.
Principe Bernardo Tortorici's family have been in Sicily since the 12th century.
Ciao.
Giorgio Locatelli.
Thank you for having us. Who would imagine that that was here?
Coming from that little street, and we never imagined something like that.
I can't help my eye being drawn to this lady here. Is she one of your ancestors?
Yes, she's a very important ancestor because she was so rich and so beautiful, as you can see.
But she's got character in her face.
Very beautiful dress. It's a Botero of the 18th century.
Botero, I love that.
I wanted to know what the prince would make of our experience in Sicily.
One of the things that struck me on this traveling that we've done, and this journey that we've done, was that I saw the youth, I saw the young people having this great passion on reclaiming their culture. I mean, we were in Aidone, and we saw this statue that is being reclaimed from the Getty Museum.
And there was the young curator, and he was the whole town was proud, but the young curator that we met, you could see he was visibly proud, you know, that here we in Sicily have taken that back. It's like Sicily 1, America 0. We've got it back from the Getty Museum.
The Aidone statue from the Getty Museum was to have back something beautiful, which was Sicilian. So I'm sure that when a Sicilian has back beauty, he is proud of his territory, of his country, because we produce beauty, always. In art, and the territory is beautiful, the sea is beautiful, the sun is beautiful, the food is beautiful. Sicily must go after his beauty. All the contemporary art, all the food, all the beautiness that we produce must be the sense of the future of Sicily.
So the answer for Sicily is look at what you got, or for the youth is look at what you got, look at your beauty
and try to do it better, to grow with these things.
Build
you have these things, grow yourself and grow these things.
Well, Principe, it's been a great pleasure to talk to you, and we hope that this...
Our audience with the Prince confirmed everything we'd seen and experienced on our trip. This place is a truly unique cornucopia of tastes, cultures and influences, but above all a place of incredible beauty. We're spending our final evening in Sicily down by the seafront. The perfect place to get away from the intense summer heat of the city. I feel I've seen sides to Sicily on this trip I've never witnessed or even thought about before. And that's because Giorgio and I teamed up and came here together.
I think the thing that I never really realised until I came and saw Sicily from your perspective through the food, I never realised how completely the different cultures that shape the art that I love here completely shape the food. It's like the art and the food are a mirror image of each other. So you go from a beautiful Arab building straight to the fact that the Arabs also left this legacy of sweet and sour and all of the vegetables that they brought, or you go from the Greek temple to the recipe of Archistratus, that at every layer it's a complete parody.
Represented.
It's represented, yeah.
This time, just looking at all the art and the architecture with you, it really put it together as a whole thing. And as a cuisine, when it's out, it comes out not from the mind, it comes out from the belly of the people, you know what I mean? Yeah. That's why I feel it's so important for me to come here with my chefs and brings them here to see this and see what they work out.
I hope you're going to take them to some art galleries next time you bring them.
I'm going to look like really with authority talking to them about it.
And it won't be my final trip to Sicily either. I'm definitely coming back.